So the Texas rig is probably one of the most popular bass fishing lures of all time. If you've fished for bass, you've probably already used this technique, but there are a few things that I wish someone would have told me when I started out using this technique. And since it's such a simple technique, a lot of these things get overlooked sometimes. So today we're gonna go through all those tips about how to fish a Texas rig, things I wish someone would have told me, and have you catching more bass on a Texas rig in no time. So stay tuned and let's get right into it. So if you followed my channel for a while, I've done this on a couple other videos already. What I do is a rigging video and talk about different ways to rig a bait, things I wish I would have known about that. And then I do a video like this where we talk more about actually how to fish the bait and get really in depth with it. I've already done the Texas rig rigging video. If you haven't seen it, it'll be linked at the end of this one. And then you'll want to check that one out because it'll give you more information to do even more stuff with your Texas rig after today's video. But today we're going to talk about more how to fish it. We're going to go into rigging just a little bit because there's two different ways I have a Texas rig rigged up for today. We're down here in Florida. We're going to fish it both ways. There's two ways that I really like to fish a Texas rig, and being able to master both of those ways to fish a Texas rig, you can catch fish on a Texas rig in almost any scenario. We will not be doing a weightless one today. There is a way to fish weightless Texas rigs as well, and those will catch fish as well, but we're gonna talk about your basic Texas rig where you have a weight, you have a bait, and that's it. So what we got right here, this one is a simple setup. It's just a 1/4 ounce weight. I do have a bobber stop because we are gonna be casting it around some lily pads and stuff. I did talk about in my rigging video, when you go watch that one, not using a bobber stop when we do the technique we're gonna do with this rod here. That is true, but if you have some heavy cover like we have today, you're just gonna have to use the bobber stop. You might lose a couple extra fish, but it's the way to go. It's the only way to get a bait through this type of cover. So on that, we have a 5/0 stout worm hook from 6th Sense, and then I have a 6th Sense Divine shaky worm on here in 6.3 inches, and this is a dark water bug. Florida, they love dark colors down here, so that's the color we picked out for today. But you can pretty much put anything you want on a Texas rig and it will work. Those fish down here, for some reason, just love a straight tail worm. They love a basic, simple Texas rig without a lot of flair to it. They don't like crazy baits and stuff like that. Not saying you won't catch them doing that, but for some reason, you catch a ton of Florida bass just with this simple Texas rig. When it comes to rod, reel, and line setup, this is a Helium from Kistler. It's a 7'3" heavy, medium heavy. So medium heavy, anything 7'3", 7 foot, medium heavy to a heavy action rod is what you're looking for. My other favorite, if you're looking for one a little bit cheaper, is going to be the Dobyns Fury in the 734 action. That rod's 120 bucks and it's an amazing Texas rig rod. I catch a lot of fish on that bait, or on that rod fishing a Texas rig. I have a Kistler Series 1 reel on here in 7:1 gear ratio. That's an absolute necessity. You have to have a 7:1 gear ratio fishing a Texas rig. You're going to want to pick up that line quickly and be able to set the hook. A lot of these fish might wrap you up into cover, so you need that faster gear ratio to do what you need to do there on some of these fish. And then I have straight 20-pound test fluorocarbon. We're fishing for some big fish down here in Florida, but more importantly, we're fishing around some heavy cover, so need that heavier line to be able to get those fish out. We'll be fishing it around some docks, some lily pads, stuff like that, so that heavier line is really going to help out there. And that rod and reel setup, and the way I have that Texas rig set up, is going to be more for dragging the bait. Now, another way that people love to fish a Texas rig, and probably the more popular approach, is actually flipping and pitching into cover like behind me here. I have a bunch of cattails. It's a perfect place to pitch and flip a Texas rig into cover. For that setup, I changed my approach just a little bit, especially here in Florida. 7.6 heavy rod. I'm going a little bit heavier here. I want to be able to yank these fish out of that cover, because if they get you wrapped up in there, you're done, especially big ones. And then I have a Abu Garcia 7:1 gear ratio reel again on here. This is the Revo SX, 7:1, very important. And then we have straight 65-pound braid. Again, I'm fishing a lot of grass, so that's why I went with that. If you're fishing wood, you're going to want to go with that 20-pound test fluorocarbon even on this setup to pitch and flip. The braid will wrap into the wood and you'll end up losing fish and baits that way as opposed to using the braid. But in grass, you're going to want the braid. I have a bobber stop on here, absolute necessity, a 3/8 ounce tungsten weight, and a 4/0 straight shank flipping hook double extra heavy. We're really yanking these fish out of here. And then on this one, I just have a basic stick worm. This is a Bitters Senko, I think it is, or a Bitters Salty Sling, I think is what it's called. I don't even know, I just grabbed it out of my compartment and threw it on here. So this is what we're gonna be using today, black and blue, 5 inches long, just your basic Senko worm, nothing fancy there. And this is gonna be the setup that I use to flip and pitch cover. So now that we got the breakdown of the techniques and the rod and reel setup, let's get out on the water. We're gonna fish both these Texas rigs around, hopefully catch a couple fish. We're gonna show you the dragging method, a lot of pond fishing and stuff like that. That's where I use that technique. And then from a boat or some heavier cover, that's when I'm gonna go to the flipping setup right here and flip all this stuff and hopefully catch some big bass. So let's go fish both these on the water. We're gonna talk more about how to fish these things and some tips while we're out there. So now that we talked about the gear you need to fish these two types of Texas rigs, we're actually gonna show you how to fish them and what the differences are between the two. The first one we're gonna start with is the dragging Texas rig. So this one is the 1/4 ounce weight with the Divine Shaky Worm. And there's two places that I really like to fish this, whether it's grass flats and like large areas I'm pulling that bait, or docks. Docks is another great one as well. So what we're actually gonna do is we're gonna skip that way under that dock. Like, I mean, that's under there. And then we're gonna give it enough line to sink down to the bottom. And then when this bait hits the bottom, we're just slowly gonna drag it out of the dock like we were fishing it in open water. Did get a little bit of a backlash there. My reel was a little too loose, but we'll fix that real fast. And then the key with dragging this bait is not hopping it like you would if you were flipping it into cover. Like, this is the way that most people are gonna fish their Texas rig. They're gonna hop it around and fish it through the water like that. When you're dragging it, I don't like to do that. And the difference between dragging it and just fishing it hopping like that is you're gonna feel more stuff on the bottom. You're not gonna feel that on the bottom if you don't have, or if you're not dragging the bait really, really slowly. So I can feel differences in the bottom change. I could feel if there's a brush pile under this dock, or if there's a crossbar I don't see, stuff like that. You're not gonna feel that if you're just hopping the bait back in. So we're gonna go ahead and reel this back in and make another cast. And the way I usually like to hold this when I'm doing this technique is I'm gonna reel up my slack and keep my rod at about 3 o'clock. And then I'm just gonna slowly lift it up to about 1 o'clock. You don't wanna get too far behind your head. You wanna keep it somewhere right in front of you here, because if I get a bite, we'll show you hopefully when we get a bite here, but if I get a bite, I wanna be able to reel down and then lean back into that fish like this. I don't wanna just like slack line hook set them. You're gonna try and like lean into them a little bit more. So we'll go ahead and fish down the bank here. And while I'm not flipping this bait, I will even target cast it a little bit and even get it into some of the cover. So like right there is a nice patch of Kissimmee grass. It's different than the rest of the stuff. So I'll go ahead and make a cast in there and see if there's a fish living along that Kissimmee grass, just because it's different than anything else. And I do actually have one on right here. And there we go. So you can see I felt him bite it, and I kind of reeled up a little bit, and I still hit the fish hard. I still set the hook good, but I kind of lean into him a little bit. I don't just slack line him as soon as I get a bite, because this hook will expose itself. So that's a tiny little guy right there, but that is how you drag a Texas rig. So now let's talk about how to flip a Texas rig, and hopefully we'll catch one doing that as well. See you, buddy. So now we're gonna change up our tactics. We're gonna go to that Senko rig we talked about, and we're gonna flip this bait around and see if we can get a bite. So I'll get a little bit closer to the cover now, and I'll be making very accurate targeted casts at stuff that I think looks good. So right there, again, it's still that same clump of Kissimmee grass. I just fish it a little bit differently. Probably will not get another bite out of that, so we'll keep moving along, but I'll throw it more into the heart of the cover now. I'm gonna make targeted casts. I'm also gonna make sure I feed it line, where with the Texas rig, dragging it, I'll cast it out there and then just click my bail and let that bait kind of pendulum to the bottom. This, since I'm making such targeted casts, I want that bait to fall straight down. So I'll flip it into a piece of cover, and then I'll pull out some line and let that sink down so that it goes straight down to the bottom. And then when I'm fishing this, instead of dragging it, I'm going to still keep my rod between 1 and 3 o'clock so I can get a good hook set, but I'm actually gonna hop this bait in place now because I'm putting the bait where I want it to be, where I think the fish are. So I don't need to move the bait to try and pull it in front of a fish. I'm putting it in front of a fish with my cast now instead, and hoping that they'll grab it on the way down or when it's hopping in front of their face. So we'll go ahead and keep doing this a little bit down this stretch of grass and hopefully find ourselves a bass. Unfortunately, the SD card on my big camera decided to run out of space while we were talking through that, but we're gonna keep on flipping this Senko around here. This is the stuff that I'm really looking for when I'm target casting, is some heavy cover that I can really flip that in there just like that. I'm watching my line go down to the bottom, and I'm gonna get really close to the cover now because these fish are not gonna be scared. This is their home. All we're trying to do is put it in their home and get them to bite it. So we'll go way, way in some of these places and get it down there to these fish. The hardest part is getting it to go through this stuff. And if you're having trouble getting your Texas rig through cover like we're doing right here, just go up in weight size. That's really what you're gonna use to dictate your weight size. Obviously you want the lightest weight you can get away with, and the lighter the better. But if I'm flipping continuously with this Senko and it's not going through the cover, then I'm wasting my time. I need to go up in weight size to make sure that I can actually get it to where the fish live. There we go. Jeez. So as you can see, while this does work for flipping grass, this also works for flipping docks too. So I just saw a little area right there I thought there could be a fish in. I flipped in there, he grabbed it, started swimming it out. And the hook set is much different, as you can tell. I mean, you need to whack them to get this hook through there. Rip the Senko right off, no big deal. We'll just get another one there. But that's how it's done. I mean, if you're flipping a Texas rig, you got to put some heat on them. That's the way you got to do it. There's a nice one. Not really. Probably the nicest one of the day, which is sad, but that's a nice one there. We're gonna get back to fishing, but if you enjoyed today's video, make sure you leave a like down below, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any more of my fishing videos coming up. And if you wanna see that rigging video, very important to know more about this right here and how to do this Texas rig technique, check this video out right here. Thanks for watching, we'll see you on the next one.